Se me ha acabado el presupuesto para dubstep y partículas, así que aquí la tenéis, la intro de Micro for Fun.
El puto amo.
Equipo, buenos días. Estamos a jueves 22 de mayo y va a empezar el CampFire sobre el RPP de la Season 9. La Season 9 que está por venir de Diablo 4 Reaper of Souls, de Diablo 4 VoH. Se supone que va a empezar el martes 27, tenemos el RPP. ¿Qué nos van a contar en este CampFire? ¿En qué va a consistir? ¿Cuál va a ser la mecánica de la próxima Season? Ya no se nos dio un pequeño spoiler de cuál iba a ser la mecánica de la Season en el roadmap. Ya se nos hizo un roadmap donde se nos dijo que iba a ser enfocada a los Oradrim. Voy a ver si encuentro el roadmap y os lo enseño. Pero básicamente va a ser la Season enfocada en los Oradrim y en los poderes orádricos. Sí, tiene toda la pinta de que va a consistir en algo parecido a lo que ya hemos tenido, que es una pestañita llena de poderes, hoy nos lo dirán. Pero esa pestañita llena de poderes en esta season, por ejemplo, ha venido acompañada de un rework a los bosses. Se supone que esta season que viene lo que van a darnos para acompañarlo es un rework a las mazmorras de pesadilla. Vamos a ver exactamente en qué consiste. A ver qué nos cuentan. Ya sabemos que a partir del martes 27 cualquiera que tenga el launcher de PC lo podrá probar. Estoy buscando el roadmap. Aquí. Este es el roadmap. Da igual, están callados, no es culpa mía. Aquí lo tenemos. Sins of the Oradrim, Oradrim Power, Quest and Reputation Board, los poderes de los Oradrim, con un reescalado de las Dungeons, con una pet de renombre, con un rework a las Nightmare Dungeon, con soporte para consola de teclado y ratón, y más.
Más justo no podía llegar.
I'm also happy to be here and probably not as caffeinated as Liam, but sometimes I wish I was.
Hey everyone, I'm Charles Dunn. I'm a game designer, work on class design on the final design team, and I had some coffee this morning, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
It's good to be. And coming in all the way from downtown
Muchas gracias.
Mr. Dan Tangway, how much caffeine have you had today?
Hey everybody, I'm Dan Tangway. I've had 0 caffeine today. I'm not allowed to have that stuff anymore. So. But yeah, I am the design director for live services. And
con vuestro permiso voy a mutear las alertas mientras dura.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Great to have you here, Dan. And yeah, we're really excited to dive into everything coming with the 2.3.0 PTR realm. It's going to be live from May 27th till June 3rd.
Sí, es la chica del sí.
Everything coming with that today. However, it's been about a month since Season 8 launched, Bilal's return. We've all gotten in and gotten some fantastic boss powers. So, you know, I know we wanted to take a moment to sort of address and see where things are currently sitting in the game. So, like, Aislinn, how do you feel things have been since the start of Season 8?
Yeah, so, we just love to talk a little bit about how has Season 8 gone? Like, what kind of changes did we make from the Season 8 PTR? How did they go in live in Season 8? So, the first thing I want to talk about with that on this topic is level pacing and activity variety. So, as you guys may be aware, we slowed down leveling just a little bit in Season 8, and I'm really glad we actually ended up bringing that to PTR because it got us so much fantastic feedback from you guys, and we decided to pull back on it a bit, and now we're actually pretty happy with where the pacing of leveling is in Diablo 4 right now. With that said, it did end up highlighting a few other things with the slightly slower leveling, which was that.
Vale, están diciendo que están muy contentos con el hecho de que cuando te haces un personaje y quieres jugar el juego, tengas muchos tipos diferentes de actividades. No sea todo el rato hacer lo mismo. Quieren que cada actividad tenga grandes recompensas.
Están diciendo que el leveo estaba bien, que se pasaron en el PTR. Que se pasaron en el PTR, pero que lo que hicieron en la Season, o sea, lo que hicieron en los cambios según su maravilloso feedback ha dicho, los dejó en un punto en el que están contentos, pero que el leveo más lento ha sacado a relucir otros problemas que tenía el juego, son los 4 bullet points.
We've had a slight philosophical, I don't want to say shift, I would say nudge,
sí, a
philosophical nudge to try and push people to different content types. when you actually do go and fight a lair boss, we want it to be a big moment, a big reward moment that one could say it would punch you in the face and knock your teeth out even. And the same is true for tributes in the Undercity or the Infernal Hordes. When you go and do these things, we want them to be really snappy, really punchy, give you a lot of stuff, and then you can move on to
cuando te metas en la infraciudad o te metas en las horas infernales o donde tú quieras, quieren que realmente la recompensa te golpee en la cara, que haya algo que sea relevante. Y que haya variedad de mecánicas es divertido. Y que ayuda a que el juego sea más largo, que haya variedad, que tengas diferentes cosas que hacer.
Y que no te sientas que estás haciendo lo mismo con una skin diferente.
Throughout some of the seasonal content that we're actually going to be talking about, because with Sins of the Haradrim comes a lot of cool permanent additions as well, which is going to be awesome. Oh, my earpiece is exploding.
It begins.
Y que van a traer un puñado de arreglos permanentes con la temporada.
But yeah, and finally, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for playing Diablo 4.
Gracias por jugar.
I personally had a blast playing Season 8. I know a lot of people on the team have had a blast playing Season 8. We're constantly just playing the game, finding what works, what doesn't, listening to what you guys are saying about it, and we're all here to make Diablo as just fucking awesome as it can possibly be. And so
Dice que están aquí para hacer que el juego sea tan increíble y maravilloso como sea posible. Y que ellos están aquí para leer el feedback y traernos un juego a la medida que nosotros queramos.
O sea, resumen, están contentos con el leveling, pero el leveling más lento ha sacado a relucir otros problemas y van a intentar arreglarlos para la Season 9, ¿no?
Sí. Quieren que haya diferentes tipos de mecánicas y además que los cambios que se hagan sean permanentes, sean el core. ¿Qué hago si hace un sí? Parece que frene y vuelve a decir que sí. Lo cuento como dos.
Broadly speaking, we're really happy with the overall diversity of builds that players are using to experience all of the content in the game. You know, one of our main pillars for class balance is the concept of
que la balance de esta temporada es mejor que la anterior, pero que hay un outlier, hay alguien que está por encima de los demás, que es el Lightning Spear Source.
Y que el Spirit está un poquito arrezagado.
You can complete the season journey, you can fight those Torment 4 bosses, and have reasonable success doing it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the absolute fastest speed farmer in the pit with every single build. But you're able to complete all the content. That's really the bar we're trying to shoot for with a lot of our class balance, and we want to
y que lo que quieren con el balance es que todas las clases pueden hacer todo.
Pueden hacer todo.
Todas las clases pueden hacer todo en Tormento 4.
Sí, aunque la faceta Speed Farmer hay algunos que destaquen, que todos deben ser competentes en Tormento 4.
I just wanted to say that this is an ongoing process, and one of the things that the PTR is so valuable for us testing is getting feedback on the new content we're putting in, the new builds we're trying to enable.
No tengo nada especial, ¿no? Puedo jugar contigo al PTR, no hay que tener nada especial.
No, that's the nature of live service games, right? Like, it's always iterative. We're always trying to balance things and get them to a spot where they function really well and builds feel really good, and it feels like you're not shoehorned into one. So yeah, the state of the game right now in terms of Season 8, having all those builds be available to get you through your entire season's journey is really, really nice. So that's really great to hear.
Yeah, and of course, we'll be sharing some updates for the class balance later on in the presentation, specifically around the overpower stat, which has definitely been kind of dominating the meta this season and has been for a little bit. So we're definitely aware of that and going to look to make adjustments with the interest of promoting.
Dice que tienen que hacer un poco de ajuste al daño a arrollar porque está demasiado destacado. Que la season pasada fue muy relevante y que esta también está un poquito más fuerte que el resto.
Absolute top builds, those ones at the very top of the meta, are kind of the same ones that they were in Season 7, in the previous season. And we know there's some fatigue around that, where, hey, Death Trap Rogue, it's the best Rogue build again. Hey, Earthquake Barbarian,
dice que no le parece bien que las mismas builds que la season pasada estaban las más destacadas sigan ahí, que son el Mago de Lanza de Rayo, el Rogue de Death Trap, el Bárbaro de Terremoto.
But we hope some of the big changes I'll talk about later really achieve
y que eso genera fatiga.
Sí.
Yeah, and this is kind of like a little bite-sized sneak peek of some of the things we'll be talking about later on in the stream. But again, that's the beauty of having the PTR, right? Is it's, I think Dan said before, like, this is our time to adjust all the knobs in the dial so that, you can test the content, give us your feedback, and then we can make some changes before that all goes live.
Esta chica es famosa porque dice que sí 12 veces por minuto.
So yeah, with that in mind, with the 2.3.0 PTR, for those of you that are keen and know the roadmap inside and out, you'll know that this next season is going to deal with all things dungeons. So we have a lot of new and exciting systems and activities that are coming in Season 9 that you'll see in the 2.3.0 PTR. So Dan, what are some of the things that players can expect to get into and try out with this PTR?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to run through some of the features that you're going to see in the Season 9 PTR.
Vale. Características del RPP.
Talk a little bit high level, build on some of the things that they were saying before. I think, when we've been looking at our seasons after X1, we've really been thinking about, what are those areas that we need to really kind of plus up, what's become stale, and one of those areas that, really felt as if it needed some
love. Desde la Season 1 están mirando que partes del juego necesitan más cariño y están focuseando sus esfuerzos en arreglar esas partes que necesitan ser levantadas. No una nueva, sino las que ya hay y hacer que trabajen bien. Y que una vez que han detectado es las mazmorras de pesadilla.
Obviously, if you're familiar with the roadmap, you'll understand that this is where we're headed, but it's important that we're still trying to, even within that, promote that activity variety and create a lot of permanent additions to the game. I know that's something coming out of Season 7 especially, a lot of folks had a lot of feedback on, and so we've taken some extra effort to make sure that we can bring a lot of these changes season on season into the permanent game moving forward. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of the features. Now, as with any PTR, I'm just going to say up front, we're not going to include any story, we're not going to include quest line, rep track, things like that. We're really focusing on things that are more repeatable gameplay that we need a lot of feedback on. First up,
pues ya está la reskin de la próxima season.
So you see an image here of the UI for the Heraldric spells.
Los poderes holádricos.
Really cool. It's kind of create a power system this season. I'm not going to speak too much about that. I'm actually going to let Liam speak about that after I go through the rest of these features. Next up, we have Nightmare Affects updates, and I'll get to those in a little bit. We have Heraldric Strong Rooms. Heraldric Strong Rooms are a new type of micro dungeon within any dungeon. Next up, we have Escalating Nightmares. Escalating Nightmares is a new type of dungeon progression system. And finally, we have Astaroth.
¡Ojo!
So dig into
Astaroth, nuevo boss. Astaroth es boss de la historia del Acto 2.
Talk about it a bit after, so I'm just going to hit this at a high level. I mean, the defining feature of Nightmare Dungeons are the Nightmare Affixes, right? And so, we've spent a lot of time over, 8 seasons basically saying, oh, well, people don't like this one. Let's tweak this one. Maybe we can add a few here and there.
Lo tenían, pero lo ignorábamos muy fuerte.
Haven't put, a strong lens on the Nightmare Dungeon affixes as we have in Season 9. Especially
Solo ha habido un poder relevante que era el que te daba pilones especiales.
Or at least variations on the type of rewards that dungeons can have. So you see here, we've got Heraldric Reserve and Equipment Delve.
¡Ojo!
And both of these
eso significa que vamos a tener una mazmorra temática de farmeo de gemas, una mazmorra temática de farmeo de ítems, una mazmorra temática de farmeo de lo que nos haga falta.
Lo está intentando decir.
Hostia, esto estaría muy bien.
All right, so let's talk about strong rooms a bit. I said it was a micro
dungeon.
Esto
es una mazmorra dentro de la mazmorra.
This is a micro dungeon, however, that's going to be hidden within a nightmare dungeon. So, the Herodrim have always been very secretive, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to explore gameplay kind of along those lines. And so you, upon entering the dungeon, have to find the entrance to this
Desarrolla esto, Taco.
Herodric strong room.
Esto es básicamente cuando tú estés en una mazmorra, supongo que de pesadilla, tú matas bichos, ganas attunement, ganas un material. Y luego tienes que buscar una entrada secreta a una especie de sala especial que es en las Strong Rooms estas Heraldricas. y ahí gastas te pegas con un miniboss, sale un cofre y gastas el attunement para mejorar lo que tira el cofre. Y hay como en la sala hay como pruebas para hacer la sala más difícil y que te dé más attunement. Son esos totems que ves como en la foto para modificar la sala.
O sea que esto básicamente es coger un mapa y meter los rasgos que tendría un mapa de PoE para que sea más difícil, pero también tenga más recompensa y la caja final te dé más cosas.
Como los altares, a lo mejor yo lo compararía.
Diría que es una mazmorra de Nahantu mejorada.
Sí.
Here is the gate that leads to the strong room. So you have an ante-room right before the strong room where you have to perform a little test to make sure you understand what's about to happen next. I think there's one more. Yep, here's some combat around one of the Herodric pillars. I'm not going to tell you exactly what the Herodric pillar does, but Herodric pillar is one of those ways to boost your score. So with the Herodric strong rooms, we're really interested in just getting a good amount of feedback about, is it fun enough? Does it differentiate itself enough from some of the other modes that we've created?
Me gusta.
And so yeah, let us know.
Parece que cuando completas una Nightmare Dungeon te dan una un poquito mejor, así en bucle hasta que la última tiene este palo y tiene un boss especial.
3 specifically, and each time you enter a new nightmare
y
dungeon,
esto no es con todos los Nightmare Siegers, sino con uno que especial que dropea de las Strong Room a partir del Tormento. Haciendo Nightmare Dungeons te encontrarás los Strong Rooms, y en los Strong Rooms a partir del Tormento 1 te puedes encontrar uno de estos.
You're going to need to get an escalating nightmare sigil. Now this is currently going to drop in Torment 1 from Strong Rooms.
Y básicamente es, según te caiga, te va a caer con un afijo, lo haces, te manda una, te dropea con 2 afijos, lo haces, te dropea con 3 afijos, así, hasta que el último tiene un boss.
Which is honestly going to create a nice flow state
running
from dungeon to dungeon to dungeon. So you don't have to back out if you don't want to.
Dispositivo que van a poner para que los puedas encadenar y no tengas que sacar el mapa y buscarla y hacer
TP. With the escalating nightmares, I think
eso está que te cagas. En plan, le pongo 20 sigil y para adelante.
Actually, how you go about acquiring it. Right now, you can only get them in Torment 1. And, going into the PTR, we're like, well, that feels pretty good. But we're also like, well, do people want to try and experience this?
No nuevo, en realidad es el boss que rescatan de la historia. Este tío está en el acto 2.
Astaroth reignited. So, Astaroth, of course, is, a very recognizable demon from Diablo 4 base game. And, we were really trying to think of somebody we could put a face, to for the upcoming season. And somebody said, well, what about Astaroth? And we thought about it and we're like, well, yeah, that's kind of unfinished business. Really, this is kind of a rematch when you come down to it, because you defeated him the first time, right? You knocked him off the
ya lo vencimos, ya sabemos un poco sus mecánicas.
But we really haven't seen him since. He's just sitting there relaxing at this point. So we really wanted to have this rematch. But if it's a rematch, we don't want to give you the same fight, right? So we've updated the combat mechanics.
Lo han mejorado y le han metido nuevas mecánicas de combate.
Some things that will feel familiar, but there's some new twists in this fight as well. And the final thing I want to say about Astaroth right now is he is not immediately going to the boss ladder. We're really trying to find ways to integrate some of our bosses in new fashions within the overall end game.
No entiendo que no.
Ha dicho, no os lo vamos a meter en el ladder de bosses ahora mismo.
Que no forma parte de la estructura de bosses, del air boss, luego el superior y luego los últimos.
But I think there's a tease of Astaroth coming up, so let's check it out.
Claro, pero entonces,
si
no va a entrar en el ladder o en esa mecánica que hemos descubierto, digo yo que nos van a dar un contexto para pelear con él.
Supongo. Pretty soon it varies up quite a bit, and so we're going to leave it at that, I think.
Qué guapo que el perro deja una zona anegada.
Just go check it out when the PTR hits. So I think at this point, we are going to chat with Liam next. So I'm going to kick it back to Irvine.
Hello. Oh my gosh, I am so nervous right now. that caffeine is combining with that nervous energy, and it is creating something, I don't know. We're just going to go for the ride.
Ride that wave, Liam. Ride that wave.
Ride that wave. Let's get into this.
¿Te ha pillado?
¿A mí solo?
¿Se ha caído?
Se ha caído el stream, ¿verdad?
Se ha caído, ¿no? Se ha caído.
Se les ha caído a ellos. Sí, se les ha caído a ellos.
Bueno, la liga supongo que será una actividad, ¿no? Para ganar la mecánica de los puntos de la temporada y gastarlos en los poderes.
No, aparentemente esos poderes van a ser una de las posibles recompensas que te debería dar el boss. Que debería dar el boss dentro de estas mazmorras de pesadilla. Estas mazmorras de pesadilla van a tener como subeventos dentro. Y una de las posibles recompensas que nos darían estos como pilares debería ser esa recompensa que nos va a servir para los poderes soladricos. Sí. Los poderes soladricos, si los miramos, que los tengo puestos ahora mismo en el stream, tienen niveles, nivel 3, 2, etcétera. El recurso para que estos poderes suban es esta monedita de aquí abajo. Esta monedita de aquí abajo yo entiendo que es la amarilla, pero también está la verde, etcétera. Los poderes son de los... Digamos, el recurso sería tipo fuego, arcano, frío, veneno y rayo. Entonces, cada poder, en base a lo que sea, tiene como un simbolito debajo para que... Entiendo que los vayamos subiendo en base, por ejemplo, estos son de utilidad o de movilidad, estos parecen ser de combate, son rasgos como los que podría llevar en la equipación.
Ya está otra vez.
¿Está online? Vamos a F5ear.
Sí.
Sí, ya ha vuelto.
Dicen que los poderes estaban hablando de que los poderes los construye.
With that said, let's just hop into it. Let's start digging into what these are.
Vamos a verlo.
All right, so right here, what we are looking at is a catalyst. And a catalyst, for those that don't know, which probably most of you don't know, is the foundation of your spell. This is what gives it its form and its function. And as you can see, there is already so much depth here. It has a lucky hit chance. It has its own cooldown. It has a rank 10 bonus. And it does a really cool effect that isn't just damage. Each one of these, they do something unique that you're going to love to play around with. And there are multiple of these.
So how do we trigger the catalysts in the first place? How do we get those going?
That is a good question. There's even a lot of depth when it comes to that system. And I think the next slide is actually going to be the best thing to convey that. All right, so what we are looking at right here is the seasonal interface for Herodric Spellcraft.
Esta es la interfaz.
And if you look, you will see that there is actually a bar right there on the UI that kind of mimics your action bar interface. And if you notice, when the catalyst got placed into the slot, the action bar skill now has a purple blinking border around it.
Están vinculados a los botones.
It means that your catalyst is now bound to that action bar skill.
And that's where the cooldown comes
Bound?
in, right?
Donde tú colocas o sea, tienes el mismo número de teclas que cuadraditos. Y donde tú lo colocas, se asigna la skill en ese cuadradito. No sé si me entiendes. Si tienes 6 skills, ves que se pone en morado.
Sí. Por ejemplo, si es una cosa que salta con Lucky Hit, solo se te va a activar si lo tiras, si el Lucky Hit lo provoca la habilidad en cuyo slot estés ubicándolo.
Let's see what happens when this rogue presses the button with Celestial Surge equipped.
Hostia, qué guapo.
Okay, that's awesome. You see, that does most of the talking.
Creo que ocurre y ya.
So basically, what just happened?
No, pero este, por ejemplo, era un golpe de suerte general lluvia de flechas. Bueno, Claro, pero ¿cuántos poderes hay? Solo hay 6. ¿Son esos poderes sí o sí? ¿O puedes fabricarte los poderes que te dé la gana?
Son 6, pero los modificas con la interfaz de arriba, creo.
Pero son estos poderes, pase lo que pase.
Sí, supongo que
What do you guys think? Is that pretty cool?
That's pretty neat. And that's only like one of the possible combinations, right? Because like you have one catalyst there and you assign it to a specific skill, but you could pick any of the catalysts and you could assign it to any of the skills that your class has available to it. And the way that the catalyst interacts changes based on the kind of skill you're using, right?
Exactly. So think of it like an extension of your skills. You know, it's going to feel very natural and organic as you're what's the term?
Vale, pero ¿qué hace? Yo esto lo he entendido, pero lo que no he entendido es ¿qué hace el resto de la interfaz? ¿Qué hacen el poder grande y los 3 chiquititos? ¿Bufar todos los catalysts o solo algunos?
so I can deploy this at a key time.
Por darte cosas
Or if I
pasivas.
like don't want to think about it too much, like I just want it to happen as much as possible, right? I'll just put it on my core skill that I'm pressing all the time, and it'll happen like as often as it can.
Claro.
And like you get that choice in how you want to deploy these.
Exactly, and like
puedes poner uno o todos.
natural. If you're a Sork and you put it on Flame Shield, it's going to summon on your character. If you're using a ranged ability, it's going to go where the ranged ability lands. If you're using a melee skill, it's going to be in melee range on the character you hit. It's just going to feel like what you would expect it to be, you know?
Yeah, so the catalyst just really flows
Que se siente de una forma como muy natural y según lo que estés usando y a qué lo vincules va a funcionar diferente. Que si usas una habilidad de rango puedes proquear estos poderes a rango y si usas una habilidad cuerpo a cuerpo, si lo tienes encima tuyo, que puedes controlar cómo se genera y dónde en base a la habilidad a la que se lo vincules.
So this is the Cosmic Anomaly. This is a summons type. We know players love summons. It's going to scale off summon damage
Anomalía cósmica.
because it has the tag. It has
Manifiesta 5 anomalías.
and an active
Que emiten
component.
partículas y hacen daño durante 4
For those of you
segundos.
familiar with
Cada
Druid
5 segundos te la
companions,
genera
this is
durante
gonna
4
feel really
segundos.
natural to you. It's that same kind of setup.
Y cuando la activas,
Y-
tus anomalías explotan
I'm not
haciendo un
even
montón de
gonna
daño por
mention the rank 10,
detonación.
but it's pretty insane.
A nivel
Like this,
10, con
if you
5
read it,
anomalías, tú
that's
eres
a
imparable.
powerful effect. So when you reach that
Y las
threshold,
siguientes
you are
explosiones,
unlocking a
doble
whole
Hacen el doble
realm of
daño.
power for your catalyst.
Tienen hasta 20 rangos y a partir del 10 activa. Estos son los Witchcraft otra vez. So, de forma pasiva los vas generando.
Look at that.
Very
Pone
lightning.
cada 5
Very
segundos.
lightning-y.
Los
Yeah,
generas.
Entiendo que cada 5 segundos los
Y de
generas
forma activa
con
los detonas.
con el lucky hit.
No, este no decía nada de
eso.
Lucky Hit. Este decía que cuando tú los
Sí, tenía lucky hit este también. A ver si lo ponen otra
No,
vez.
active your command anomalies to...
Lucky hit chance.
No, la Lucky Hit chance significa la chance de que esta habilidad genere un Lucky Hit, no que provoque un efecto por Lucky Hit. Son cosas diferentes.
Pero ¿cómo-
Todas las
cómo le
habilidades
das
del
tú
juego
la
tienen
activa?
Lucky Hit
¿Cómo
chance.
le das?
Something I really love about
Cuando
this clip
tú
is
lo
¿Cómo le
vinculas
das
al
tú?
botón 4,
Ah.
cuando activas el 4 lo estás activando.
assigned it to Bone Prison,
vale.
which is
De
very
forma
clever
pasiva llevas
because they
5
also
minions,
have a pull-in
de forma
with
activa
force
los
tendrils.
detonas.
And so what they do is they pull
Lo que estoy viendo es que los
everything
minions
in force
atacan de forma
and then
pasiva.
cast Bone Prison, which invokes
Solo que
the
de forma
cosmic
activa los
anomalies
inmolas.
and kills all of them while they're stuck all together inside the Bone Prison.
Exactly. Well said. There's so many satisfying combinations for you to discover. We're gonna leave it there, but let me tell you, the amount of depth
¿Cómo que lo vas a dejar aquí?
is so fun. We've had so much fun.
Vale, pero la
playtesting this
pregunta
internally.
es-
Oh, yeah,
¿Solo
yeah.
están estas 5 habilidades o hay más?
Creo que solo están estas 5 habilidades, pero ¿qué coño hace el resto de la interfaz? Decían que lo podías customizar, pero no han dicho nada de cómo.
Y no puede ser que las habilidades las fabriques tú. Que la interfaz sea los recursos para... En plan, le voy a poner frío, le voy a poner movilidad, le voy a poner tal. Y tú diseñas el combo de habilidad. Sería la hostia.
A ver, yo entiendo que, porque todas son como, parecen como estelares, ¿no? Entonces, yo entiendo que tienes unas habilidades y a lo mejor las puedes... lo que tú has dicho, de que en vez de que haga genérico, haga daño de frío, porque a mí me viene bien, o daño de tal. Pero todas, o de una en una.
Exactly.
Ya, pero si yo puedo coger cada habilidad y decir, vale, ahora yo creo que los estelares tengan defecto principal. Mira, a ver.
Your Catalyst no there, sí es.
Hacen
Eso
daño de fuego y daño de quemadura.
Esto transforma todas.
Tiene 10% de chance de provocar quemadura en el suelo, provoca un daño de quemadura en el suelo, rompe estructuras. Mientras los tienes equipado, tu daño de fuego es igual a tu tipo de daño más alto potenciado.
Fire is destructive. It's really, it's
Y eres inmune a Chilling Wind.
Naturally, it's going to destroy enemy structures. What does that mean? I'm not going to tell you. But maybe you're going to see it in just a moment, actually. But I'm not going to tell you for this time right now. And fire also creates burning areas on the ground that will damage enemies.
O sea, por una parte, meter esto en la ecuación es defino que mi habilidad sea de fuego y encima genero suelo de quemadura.
Pero todos, supongo, ¿no?
Claro, yo puedo decidir ir a frío, ir a rayo, ir a fuego, ir a sombra.
Y los modifico. A todos, no a uno, sino a todos.
Frost sorcerer who just has like a lot of frost damage or cold damage, right? You can still use this, and it kind of benefits from all of your cold damage because all the elemental damage types kind of get equalized here.
¿En serio? Dice, tú llevas una maga de frío y te pones esto y convierte todos tus potenciales de frío en fuego.
It's flowing everywhere. I have too much of it. I swap in the poison
Pero eso es lo que ponía en la de esta.
Claro, pero entonces cualquier personaje del juego...
Your Highness modificar la Applied to Fire.
Claro, pero cualquier potenciador que yo tenga en el juego, por ejemplo, de rayo o lo que sea, lo puedo convertir en sombra, y la sombra tiene implícito AOE. Tiene implícito que cuando alguien con sombra muere, detona. Acabas de ganar daño área gratis.
And Ariel's visage?
Yeah.
Like, do I want to throw that on my helmet now? I don't know.
Pero a lo mejor eso no lo tiene el que convierte a sombra. A lo mejor tiene otra cosa.
Crafting opportunity. So there's so much there. Just can't wait to see everyone's reaction when you all play with it.
And so just to make sure I get this right.
Tienes uno gordo, ¿no?
I
Y
have my
tres
catalyst. That's what we see
pequeñas.
visually in these clips here, like those cosmic anomalies. And we just talked about infusions. And infusions change the elemental damage type specifically of my catalyst, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So as you're seeing right here, he's swapping
cinco,
out the
¿no?
lightning
Cinco
gem
elementos, ¿no?
with a fire gem. And now look at them. They're all fiery. They have smoldering flames. And
Cuando le pones la
this,
infusión de...
when they combust,
Espérate, que
look
igual
at
lo
it,
estoy
there's a
entiendo yo
burning
mal.
patch on the ground, and you can get multiple of those. It isn't just always going to be one.
Le cambia...
This is destruction.
Le cambia tus catalysts esto.
This is cool.
Hell yeah.
Sí, pero si no estoy entendiendo yo mal, lo que le está definiendo es las tres habilidades, digamos que la habilidad, arriba le estás poniendo tres características, más a eso, a ese minion, a esa habilidad, más daño, más velocidad de movimiento y tira proyectiles. Y luego le defines el elemento. Y cada habilidad le tienes que tocar los 4 puntos de la interfaz, que sería efectos.
No.
¿Cómo que no?
No, porque ponía catalyst en plural. Uno a todos.
No. Mira.
Sí.
Igual esta interfaz está mal hecha. Esto es así, o por lo menos yo lo estoy entendiendo de esta manera.
Bueno,
depending on the damage type you are using. So what would you expect fire to deactivate? Well, it makes sense that thematically it would deactivate chilling winds. Those are those like icy winds that monsters can summon in. They like slow your projectiles.
Yeah.
So annoying.
No one likes being slow.
I was just playing a
Gotta go fast.
Yeah, I was playing a Blood Spear Necromancer Season 8, and the chilling winds were so annoying.
Oh yeah.
So let's look at a clip and see chilling winds being deactivated.
So this is a different catalyst than we've seen before, right? This one draws like a damaging beam.
Yeah, so this is Disintegrate. It is another catalyst. We're not going to show you the tooltip about all its possibilities and what it does, but yeah, you'll see that the moment he deactivates the monster, those chilling winds just disappear. And they will stay disappeared as long as they are, consistently deactivated. So as you know, this is going to be very satisfying to use. Like, you're going to be able to swap these in, and if certain monster affixes just ruin your day and you really dislike them, well, they're just gone like that.
Todo el mundo se va a poner de la granofera y ya está.
Yep, so, okay, there we go. The Waller wall is just gone. This is also fire because I talked about structures.
Hablando de que los de los elementos tienen quitarle una fijo.
Lightning damage all around the arena. That is tether points, those things that like chain you to the ground.
Bueno, apagar, desactivar una.
Han dicho antes que el elemento fuego afecta a las estructuras. Y que si te pones el elemento fuego...
El fuego quita las chilling winds, quita la barrera esa. El muro de Yasuo ese. Y ahora están lanzando un ejemplo de que otro quita los muros.
Monster affix, you can just slap in whichever infusion you need, and then you won't have to deal with it.
Exactly. So yeah, there's going to be so much choice here to like swap things on the fly and react to things to kind of.
O sea que si hay un poder en concreto que te haga mucho la puñeta, le pones a tu habilidad que lo desactive y ya está.
Wait, there is more. We have more in this system for you. Actually, we have 3 more socket spaces of things you have to think about while you're designing your spell. So let's get into that. So we have Arcana. Arcana are going to be dropping in seasonal content randomly in the released version of this season, but on PTR we're just going to be giving it to you, so you'll be able to play around with all of them. But
qué bonito le
es lo que yo te decía. Es lo que yo te estaba diciendo.
For your powers, these are small, subtle.
Bueno, pero esto era.
When you add 3 of them, they really kind of tailor the
es
power,
literalmente
the catalyst.
El elemento que quieres que tenga tu poder y las cualidades que tienes que tenga tu poder.
We have the infusion, which determines the catalyst's elemental type and gives it fancy bells and whistles. And then we have the Arcana, which even modifies it further. And like we saw there, like you could make it
los
bigger,
arcanas son los modificadores.
Give yourself a buff when you use your catalyst.
Los bufos, los efectos que provoca lanzar la habilidad. Está la habilidad y el estado.
Estos son los tres chiquitillos.
So, I picked these three because they kind of show off different reasons you might use an Arcana. So starting on the left side with Gleaming Conduit, it increases the effect size of your catalyst.
A no ser que sean Dios,
Let's go back to the first catalyst we showed off. It was the
los primeros.
El de la derecha es God. El de la derecha es God. Lo de que los enemigos tengan barrera, eso de que le estás pegando un bicho, se pone una barrera y se vuelve inmortal, ese es God.
Those stars are creating bigger impacts when they land on the ground. Meaning by swapping in this Arcana, you are overcoming a bit of that downside and you are making that damage more consistent and just more overall impactful.
Yep, and that's just going to apply differently.
¿Veis que tienen sus propios tags, no? Power, Denian.
Stone, I'm actually just going to throw this over to Charles. Charles, what class might be happy about this Arcana?
I mean, I've heard some classes, Necromancer, talking about how they don't have too many options for Unstoppable. Well, now you have many, many options, 5 different catalyst options, and tons of different ways to invoke it to gain that Unstoppable. So, Necromancers, look out for that Tranquil Stone.
Exactly, yeah. So this kind of goes to that philosophy of these will kind of fill in holes.
El de la derecha me parece súper loco.
Lo es.
One sec. Okay. Technical difficulty aside, I can hear again. Tranquil Stone will basically overcome some downsides of your class. It will, fill in the holes.
Están hablando de que básicamente cuando un personaje tiene ciertas carencias o dificultades, como por ejemplo el negro, que le cuesta mucho volverse imparable, que es una condición básica para que pueda, por ejemplo, activar los pantalones de Diablo o alguna cosa de estilo, que su condicional es mientras eres imparable ganas más daño, este tipo de interacciones te van a garantizar poder activar esas interacciones. Entonces puede servir para compensar carencias de personajes.
So if that really suits your playstyle, feel free to place those in.
Y que si tu personaje, por ejemplo, es un cuerpo a cuerpo y lo destruye los muros de viento, ponte antimuros de viento. Si necesitas movilidad y te destruyen los escudos, ponte escudos.
And when we think about Legendary Arcana, we're not really thinking about
aplicas fear.
Pure player power. We're thinking about the
y veces un 80% de slow.
How hard they are to understand, the depth of them, right? There's just
a los enemigos.
And what do I mean by that? So there are 5 Legendary Arcana that you can discover out there. And as
estos son una mejora específica para cada uno de los
catalysts. It changes what's going on. So let's start on the left side. So on the left side, your Nightmare Orb
is
los
minions,
to the Cosmic Anomaly catalyst from before.
Oh, yes.
And it adjusts its effect to match it. So when you put this on your pet summons catalyst, suddenly they're going to have
entonces cuando se activa el catalyst, o sea, cuando usas la activa ganas 6 segundos de fear y el resto del tiempo de forma pasiva están metiendo un 80% de slow a cualquier cosa que ronce los minions, las bolitas.
This does a completely different effect.
Le añade el efecto y le añade el efecto que es un miedo que dura 6 segundos y tiene todo lo que dice.
So these Legendary Arcanas care about each individual catalyst then?
Yep, exactly. So the same Legendary Arcana has 5 different variations to wrap your head around, and there are 5 of these. So 5 times 5...
que cada uno de estos existe para los 6
catalysts. I feel like you've just presented to me and
hay 6 poderes de estos y cada uno tiene 6 variaciones para cada catalyst.
O sea, puedes usar el fear en el modo que quieras para cada bicho.
Hay uno que tiene el de los minions que hacen el low y otro que tiene que los, ¿cómo se llaman? El rayo ese láser tiene el low y otro que las estrellas tienen el low.
Actually, I already feel it falling out. Don't worry about it. Instead, we have some really cool video content to show you. Well, the rest of us just talk broadly about this system and why we're so excited. So, everybody, the floor is open. What is your favorite combination? What are you the most excited about when it comes to these spells?
Yeah, I really think that I love finding ways to get my ultimate cooldown really low so that I can trigger it on my ultimate constantly. It kind of mixes really, really well. I'm just playing like an ultimate build in general. It's really fun.
Yeah, I've got a soft spot for summons. I really love the Cosmic Anomaly. I love just having a bunch of guys out there, even if they're floaty, glowy orbs.
Los poderes se puede asignar uno a cada habilidad. En plan, uno al 1, otro al 2, otro al 3.
Having them go and explode. That's just really fun for me.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of playing Barb lately, but I find when I get into the higher torment tiers, you're just like so up and close and taking damage that the survivability does get a bit more difficult. So like having the ability to use some more like ranged abilities to then throw my spellcraft out and then kind of do some CC while I am like an
Igual solo puedes uno,
and like I'll probably play a rogue next season too, so in a similar vein, like being able to kind of like still have those.
O sea, porque no hago ningún vídeo que tenga las pets, la cosa esa del suelo y las estrellas.
Porque es un showcase. Entonces quieren que cada uno cobre su propio protagonismo.
Again, so much content here. We are unbelievably excited for you guys to get into the PTR and try these out.
Yeah.
Again, we've had so much fun playtesting them, and we can't wait to see what everyone thinks about it.
I feel like I got into a state where like I was playtesting Heraldric Spellcraft, and I was like,
después de esto ponen notas.
Because like I just started being like, well, what if I like did this Kylus with this fusion and then applied it to this skill? Oh, and now this Arcana matters, and that just happened again and again and again. Yeah. It's just so much fun.
Cuando lo ponen entonces el martes.
Yeah.
O dentro de 3 semanas,
really
depende.
System.
I just want to throw it to Azen.
Entramos al PTR sin ni hostias para adentro.
No lo sé.
There's more.
De 4 PTRs, uno ha puesto las notas, 2 los han puesto una semana y media más tarde, otro 3 semanas, el otro fue como un mes, el otro no tuvo. Depende de con qué pie se lo
Well, yes, you are correct. There is more.
Esto no es
There are Heraldric Jewels. Heraldric Jewels are what you might be reminded by, you might be reminded... excuse me, I can speak English.
Vaya, vamos a volver a tener joyas para la joyería.
They are very similar to Cult Gems from Season 7. We have a lot of similar effects on Heraldric Jewels that you might have seen from Season 7.
Si vas a morir, no mueres, invocas propulsión y te vuelves invulnerable.
Effects to these Heraldric Jewels, and we've also really brought them in and
130 armadura y 6% de resistencia a todos los elementos.
Esto es una joya perfecta y preciosa para jugar hardcore.
So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be finding these Heraldric Jewels through tomes starting in Torment 1. So once you actually get to the end game, you'll start finding the ability
Se craftean con Heraldric Fields y Gemfram.
You can then, once you've found the tome, take it to a crafting station and actually craft it with the seasonal currency Heraldric Files and gem fragments. And don't worry, it's not as many gem fragments as gems if you have PTSD from that like I do.
It was a little expensive back then.
It was a lot. And yeah, you can then just socket them into your jewelry sockets and just pump up your build even further. And our first example here is Liminal Echo, which you might actually recognize as an occult gem in terms of a cheat death. But we have reflavored it and rethemed it and
lo de que se craftee con fragmentos de gema o haces que caigan más o te lo puedes comer porque no sirven, no existen.
And it makes you invulnerable and then it has an ICD.
A partir de Tormento 1 empiezan a caer los tomos de las Strong Room, de las memorias de pesadilla. Y aquí tenemos más ejemplos.
So we're going to go over some of our favorite here just to give you guys a sneak peek.
¡Ajá! ¡Mira el primero!
Tyrant Bane. You can look over that text there and you might think to yourself, is this Bane of the Stricken? And the answer would be, yes it is. If you are a D3 enjoyer, it is Bane of the Stricken for dot builds. I'm very personally excited about that.
Un 33% más de daño por la cara, me gusta.
This one is
Tus catalysts se hacen el doble efecto
cuando
pierdes el control.
Double your catalyst damage. That's a lot of damage though, so if you do want to do
a un mismo enemigo 0,33 cada tick hasta infinito.
No, pero no es escalable.
¿No? Por forever.
Sí, o sea, le haces un tick y ya para siempre, ya puedes pegar con otra cosa.
Pero
cada golpe extra.
No es cada golpe, entonces si no es literalmente una mierda, no tiene sentido. Tiene que ser que cada golpe es un 0,33 más.
Pues entonces eso es la afligidos de Diablo 3 que hace literalmente
eso. Lo que he dicho es Bane of de no sé qué, es afligidos de Diablo 3.
Primary core stat, max life, unhindered, great stuff.
Absolutely.
Nothing else to worry about.
For sure, for sure. All right, and
y el tercero es el tercero era los guantes de Nemesis.
Anomaly catalyst with the
Del 3 decía que de vez en cuando te vienen los guardianes de las joyas, te saltan.
Tus catalysts tienen el doble efecto. Cuando pierdes el control sobre el Heraldric Spellcraft, causando de tu catalyst haga Infusion randomly, y el tercero era que ganas un 6% de tu recurso y 8% de vida
Mientras tanto serás cazado por Darkest Place, por Diego el Guardian, que querrán proteger su reliquia. O sea, ganas de forma pasiva recurso y vida, pero a cambio de vez en cuando vienen a putearte.
Slot some of those in and see what kind of madness you can accomplish.
Yeah, not gonna lie, chat was pretty excited about the project rules. And like the Starflux, it looks absolutely.
Hostia, pero eso significa, si es lo que tú dices, si es la afligidos, básicamente hace que los bosses de mazmorra de falla superior vayan a morir.
Pero solo Dot, ¿no?
Pues
el meta será Dot.
So we will have that towards the end of the stream, so drop your questions in chat. We do have community members.
Con daño incrementado, cualquier cosa. Trampa veneno.
We want your feedback. That was a ton of information, a ton of systems, and we actually do have specific things that we're looking for in terms of what we're seeking for each bit component.
Y daño degenerativo de frío y de rayo.
Yeah, that's true. Like, you know, I guess I'll speak specifically to Project Jewels. Gotta make sure I get the terms right.
En realidad todos tienen todo, porque todos pueden con los poderes nuevos por volverlo todo de fuego, de veneno, de sombra.
Bueno, todo no, su
catalyst. To give feedback on just straight up balancing. Does this give you enough bonus damage? Does this give you too much bonus
No es que se vuelva al mago incinerar, es que el mago de rayo ahora puede hacer que el rayo meta hacer rayo haga daño de veneno. Y que cada tick consecutivo meta un 33% más, un 0.33.
Yeah. But yeah, let us know about Heraldric Jewels, and of course, I'm sure you'd love to hear people's thoughts about
definitely. For Heraldric spells, please just let us know how it feels both in early and late game. I know it's PTR, a lot of people are going to be mainly jumping into the late game, but early game is also really helpful. We want them to feel really cool and satisfying to use in all realms of content. We also just want to know about the effects themselves. Are they satisfying? Does anything feel off? Do we need to like tighten up cooldowns or things like that? Just get into the weeds with it. We will definitely be reading through as much as we can and making these spells the best they can be for launch.
Yep, now's the time to get that feedback, tune those knobs. It's the best time to do it. And for everyone watching from home, we also will have the D4 patch notes and the blog hitting after the stream. So if there's anything you missed on the stream, that will be available for you to read in depth and over the weekend before you dive into
del stream, ¿no?
I know one of the biggest parts of the patch notes has to do with class balance, and we do have some. Charles, you got a lot to talk about today.
I got some notes here. We got lots to talk about. You know, I kind of teed it up at the start of the stream how we kind of think about class balance currently. But of course, it's an ever-changing process.
Class balance.
We always want to be giving new things to play with, new ways to play Diablo 4. And so there's lots of updates this season with that in mind.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of the changes that affect all classes in some way before getting into each individual class and talk about some of the new stuff coming for them. These are kind of changes that are global or affect everybody. So first up, you know, Overpower has been overpowered for a while. We should have seen that coming with the name. Oops. Yeah, it has been really like just one of the strongest things you can be doing across any class for the past handful of seasons now. And so we're
durante el último puñado de seasons arrollar, ¿no?
So Overpower ha sido demasiado meta. It was supposed to be a stat that tankier kind of builds, things that have like.
El daño overpower, para que no sepas, es un daño basado en tu vida y tu fortificación o tu barrera, etcétera. Entonces, cuanto más tanque te hacías, más daño hacía. Inicialmente era para que aquellos que tenían que stackear vida y fortificación tuvieran alguna forma de hacer daño. Pero si coges un jugador de DPS y le añades eso, lo hace stack y más DPS. Es superior a todos los demás por definición.
Based on the amount of maximum life and fortify that your character had. This ended up being a lot because it was kind of tied to the like ratio of how much health you already had. I don't want to get in too deep into the math.
Hay literalmente una espada que te duplica la vida.
Damage. So it would be the equivalent of you having like plus 1,000 or more % damage on your gear when you overpowered, and that led to overpowers being extremely strong, far more than say critical strike, for instance.
And even dominating builds that originally weren't intended to benefit from that.
Dice hasta las builds que no deberían beneficiarse de eso, has hecho una iteración para que se beneficien de eso. Está muy por encima del resto.
Also didn't help that it's already so good to just stack max life, right? So it was like you're doing a ton of damage and you're doing the right thing by stacking max life because it's so potent, right? So yeah, it was very dominant for that reason.
Right, and so in this season, in Season 9, we're going to be making an update to that additive portion, the additive damage that you get from the overpower, that messy behind-the-scenes formula that you would get, essentially reducing it by 80%. So if you used to get...
Hostia,
¿Y es un 80?
80% menos 80% al daño aditivo.
It still gives a multiplicative bonus, just like critical strikes, because it's still rare. It's still you need to work to get your overpowers online, just like critical strikes. So it's still going to be powerful. Overpowering is still going to be better than not doing it, but it won't be so infinitely far ahead like we've seen it.
¿El 80% es solo al overpower?
No, el 80% a la parte aditiva.
Meta builds right now feels like you need to
no a la parte multiplicativa.
Del daño de arrollar.
Entiendo que si tú stackeas daño de arrollar, el stat, es que se puede, ¿no?
Sí.
Eso es multiplicativo. Pero la parte que ganaba daño por tu vida le han partido a un 20% del original.
Another contributing factor was that whenever you got overpowered damage on your items, it was just overstated. You know, we balanced those initially when earlier on in the game's lifetime, when we had a different estimate of how often players would be overpowering or doing any of these kind of conditional effects like critical strike or dot damage or what have you. So we've done kind of a comprehensive pass on items, the base affixes that show up this season, and said, okay, critical strike damage, we're going to give you an equivalent amount of critical strike damage and overpower damage if it appears in the same spot. Previously, it was something like you'd get a one-handed weapon, and it would literally have almost 200% overpower damage and Ancestral, and it would give like 55% critical strike damage. And that's just way too different, right?
Y van a rebalancear los afijos de todos los objetos para que los, como ahora el overpower es multiplicativo, solo eso. Que todos los que son de ese palo, como por ejemplo Crit Multi, tengan el mismo, en el mismo slot de objetos tengan el mismo número. Ya he puesto de ejemplo que un arma podía rolear 200 de overpower damage y un arma de una mano podía rolear 200 de overpower damage y 50 de crit multi.
Eso tiene sentido. El sigilo, por ejemplo, es muy superior a todo lo demás porque el número es como 3 veces más grande.
Entonces van a igualar los números.
Esto significa un mega buff a todo lo que no es overpower y un nerfeo gordo a todo lo que sí es overpower.
Sometimes we've had some basic skills which just, do negative damage. You think like you're healing the enemies by attacking because it's so weak, and other ones that you can actually really build a full kind of basic skill build around because it has a lot of.
Si me dejas las habilidades básicas bien, esta season queda un druida.
We've done a comprehensive pass on every single basic skill in the game.
Que en el estado en el que están, literalmente tú sentías que curaban al enemigo.
I say double or triple their damage output for the most part. Literally skills that used to do like 20% of your weapon damage.
Y que le han metido un por 2, un por 3 a todas.
Just massive increases on every single basic skill in
vale, ¿quién va a resucitar con esto? ¿El bárbaro porrazo? ¿El druida de garra eléctrica?
We do want still basic skill oriented builds in the late game to exist, but of course if we just tripled or their damage output.
Y el que creo que le puede sentar muy bien es el Spirit Board de veneno.
So we have adjusted
el Flurry, es verdad.
The scalars that you see on some of the legendary and unique items that talk to
el pícaro de generadora.
Y in particular, brought them down a little bit. We still
busca corazones también.
Han nerfeado los únicos que escalaban con las básicas para compensar.
We're not trying to triple every single basic skill. We want to make sure that it smooths out that progression.
Right.
I will say that this is, we looked at basic skills here in this season. It's an initiative where we're going to be looking at other categories.
El Spirit Board con generadoras tiene que ser la hostia.
Keep an eye on similar kinds of comprehensive balance passes for future seasons as they come down. So your feedback on exactly how we landed on this basic skill pass is really helpful to help inform, like, hey, is our methodology, our comparison right, and were the tuning on these accurate? Next up, maximum resistance. This is a relatively quicker point. So right now on live, if your maximum resistance for every element is capped at 70%. Now on the PTR, it'll be capped at 75% baseline, so everyone can get a little bit more resistance. The absolute cap is still 85 if you get some maximum resistance effects, but the baseline you'll get 75 resist in order to resistance cap. In exchange, there were some items that were that had just a whole bunch of all resistance on them. Like some boots that just gave you like 50-some% maximum resistance to all elements.
Those ones too much of it a little by itself.
Yeah, exactly. So some of those outliers that really solved your resistance a little too easily, we're going to tone those down a little bit. But kind of in exchange, we give everyone the option to build a little bit more to make sure that
había algún único o algo que te arreglaba la resistencia demasiado, lo han bajado un poco.
Todos sabemos los dos que están.
El tira no.
El tirar y el pantalón, sí. Hay un pantalón que es el del alba que te da como 15 a las resistencias máximas y 50 a resistencias básicas.
Historically have come from a key passive that just scales kind of infinitely, right? You build up some critical strike damage, which increases your other damage, and that just scales infinitely, and that causes builds that can use that key passive to be far more powerful than builds that use other key passives, which maybe don't scale that infinitely. So with that in mind, we looked at every key passive, and we've set a bar of about 75% multiplicative damage. Bonus. So if it just said do increase damage, it would say 75% increase. Right. Now some will have more conditions, you know.
Han dicho que como hay builds que se aprovechan mucho más de algunas de las pasivas clave que otras, las han rebalanceado y el objetivo es que lo máximo que te pueda dar una pasiva clave es un 75% más de daño.
And even a handful of some key passives that were underperforming that mark, that were not quite that good.
Bueno, entonces le han metido un collejón que flipas
a todos.
Builds that,
al del mago.
Tú no has probado el bueno.
Absolutely.
El bueno era el victimizar del pícaro. Le podías meter 2 millones% de daño de vulnerable. Se lo cargaron en la Season 5 a la 6, pero la Season que estuvo bien se sacó una 168.
Yeah, the extreme balance outliers are really what kind of can kill the fun of the game. If you're like, hey, I want to play, you know, whatever kind of build you want, but then you see somebody else doing something different, and you're like, oh, they are 100 times better than me. It actually does affect how much fun you're having because you feel like you're playing suboptimally. And by kind of bringing some of these more in line to a kind of a budget of power that we want from certain sources, we help to eliminate those outliers that are like miles ahead of everybody else. With that in mind, you know, we think that this is going to promote better build diversity, of course, as you can play more options, and it won't feel as bad that you aren't.
Wow, porque va a cambiar tanto la diversidad una pasiva que te daba igual el elemento.
So let's move on to the individual class changes. Those affect everybody, but of course every class.
Es mentira, no tiene que ver, es un nerf y ya está. Di que es un nerf, no digas tontería.
So for the
balance.
The big talk of them for a while has been earthquakes in particular. Barbarians love to, you know, stomp on the ground, and they stomp so hard that they make some earthquakes. Those have been extremely powerful for a handful of seasons, and we know that, you know, there's other fantasies to explore in Barbarian other than just earthquakes, and so we have done some updates to kind of bring down some of the power level of earthquakes, specifically on its legendary Paragon node, the Force of Nature, that gave it a ton of multiplicative damage on earthquakes. That has been brought down quite a bit. To the second bullet point here, a lot of the legendary Paragon nodes in Barbarian, Paragon, and across every other class has been kind of simplified. Some of them used to have effects which was like, do a thing to get a buff, to give you some damage that stacks up to 5 times, right? It would be like kind of a multi-step thing for a Paragon
de las pasivas estas, no solo del bárbaro, sino de todos, de las pasivas estas del tablero del parche.
So we've simplified
porque
them.
Era muy rebuscado.
It's just like, hey, do a thing, get a bonus, and that's it.
Right.
And specifically on Barbarian, I think they got some of the bigger updates in that regard. And in a lot of cases, the Paragon become even more powerful because you don't need to stack it up 5 times or whatever it might be. You just get the bonus right out of the gate. So they are slightly more powerful.
Could you say barbarians are getting a seismic shakeup? I'm so sorry.
A little bit. On some of these, it may feel that way. Yes. Yeah. Additionally, we've got a new unique item this season. We know that players love playing with dash cleave. And now, what if every other one of their basic skills could cleave? Well, have I got the unique for you? And it's my favorite named unique in this season, which is saying something.
It's true.
It is the Hooves of the Mountain God.
So good.
So, Hooves of the Mountain God, whenever you attack with a basic skill while you're at maximum fury, you kind of enter this state where your fury is going to be draining, and you're kind of empowered here, and during that time, your basic skills will cleave and deal increased damage. All of your basic skills will do that while you're empowered here. And of course, your fury is draining, so you're going to want to keep spamming those basic skills to rebuild it back up and kind of maintain that state as long as possible.
Yeah, so at this point, you really care about generating a tremendous amount of fury, but it's not actually to cast a core, it's just to keep going.
Yeah, keep going and keep hitting with your basic skills that are just hitting hard and cleaving all around you.
It's pretty awesome.
We got a video clip here of this in action. Of course, we've seen Bash cleave before through some of the tempering affixes. That tempering affix is going to be updated to give another multiplicative bonus to Bash here, but because now it can cleave through this unique, and of course you can mow through a whole set of skeletons here with your Bash while your fury is drained.
Ya, pero tienes que te condiciona pegar con esa cosa tan lenta. Cuando con las espadas de una mano es muchísimo más rápida.
Skeletons, oh my goodness.
Ahora que era hasta qué punto es rentable.
All right, we've got next class. We've got the Druid to talk about. All right, so the Druid this season, talk of the Druid has been Cataclysm for a while. A couple points on that. So. A lot of Cataclysm, it's this long-lasting ultimate, right? You press Cataclysm, you get the storm around you, it lasts a while. And it suffered from some, like, what we call snapshotting, where you get a buff or some effect that says, hey, your next skill cast does increase damage, or it has some effect. And when you press Cataclysm, it's obviously a very long effect, and it benefits from that effect, from the bonus damage to your next cast. That's
Terremoto nerfeado.
Right? When we say your next cast, we mean the whole cast.
Catalyst nerfeado. De momento iban 2 build tops nerfeadas.
That being said, we do find that Cataclysm being the only way to play Druid, or at least the only kind of competitive way to play Druid, is not really healthy, because we know that is a kind of mechanically intensive playstyle.
No es sano que Cataclismo sea la única forma competente de jugar al druida.
Según yo he entendido,
que no tenga ninguna.
Según yo he entendido, que Cataclysm, como es un buffo que dura muchísimo, todos los buffos que tuviera cuando lo lanzaste se conservan hasta que se acaba.
Eso fue la season pasada.
Y
eso lo han quitado.
Allow for other opportunities, other ways to play Druid in a competitive way.
O sea, se cargan la top 1 y aparecerán otras.
We've got updates to a lot of legendaries that used to talk to Grizzly Rage, and that does also remind me about what we're doing with legendaries this season as we talk about this. In previous seasons, we've always had a new unique item and a new legendary aspect for every class. Here for Season 9, we're just going to be doing a brand new unique item. And we're instead doing reworks to a lot of existing legendaries. So a handful of legendaries on each class have been rather substantially reworked.
Dice que han reworkado unos cuantos poderes de
Grizzly Rage.
Supongo que se refiere a los poderes de todas las clases.
We said, well, rather than make a brand new one, let's take this existing one that really
y aparte han añadido
and then
un
just
único
like functionally change a lot of things to it. It may still have, the same kind of theme, same kind of niche, probably keeps the same name in a lot of cases. But instead of like adding a brand new legendary aspect that kind of dilutes the drop pool, right? Every legendary we add makes it harder to find any in particular legendary.
You also don't want a situation where like
en particular dicho lo han reworkado, ¿no?
Aspect not desirable, but then we make a new one that is.
Que le han añadido un único especial para él, pero está hablando de que aparte han añadido un puñado a todas las clases. Han quitado, bueno, han reworkado un puñado de poderes legendarios. Para no añadir nuevos. Los que no tenían sentido los han reworkado. Para no añadir nuevos y diluir la pool.
Several of the ones talking to Grizzly Rage and Poison in particular are going to be updated.
So benevolent of us finding homes for all
Y
these
que aparte
legendaries, you know, it's great.
reworkeado Grizzly's
Now
Rage.
they have a home to go to. They actually hopefully find a new niche to fit into, and they won't be so sad off to the side and people pick them up and they're like, no, in the gutter.
Yeah, that's absolutely the
Y no
hope, is
enseñan
that
el
we're
único,
able to
si lo han
look at
enseñado el
every
otro.
legendary and unique item in the game and say, hey, you pick it up and you read it and you're like, oh, I see where this would be useful. And you would feel excited about it. It might not be the build you're currently playing, but you see that it does have a home and a niche. That's our goal. And we know that a lot of legendaries in the game right now aren't hitting that mark, and that's why we're focusing on reworks, at least for this season.
Right.
With that in mind, with Grizzly Rage and some poison updates, let's talk about probably one of my favorite visual uniques of the season. I call it splashing poison puddle, right? Because you know we're coming up on summer here. Everyone loves splashing in the sun, you know, playing in the water. But we're in Diablo in the World Sanctuary, and nothing's ever that wholesome. It's poison puddles. Let's take a look at the Rotting Lightbringer. So the Rotting Lightbringer, every 10 seconds when you cast Pulverize, it'll form a poison puddle where you pulverize. And if you pulverize that puddle again, then it'll splash additional % of that damage to enemies nearby. It'll like throw out some extra little projectiles of poison. And of course, you are splashing in the poison puddle.
So básicamente, pulverice cuando pega, crea un charco de veneno. Bueno, en 400% del daño pulverice. Y si le hace, pegas otra hostia al charco, pulverice, pega un puñado de proyectiles con un 40% del daño del puddle.
And this is also marrying the concept of like poison.
Me gusta.
The theme in Druid
me
of
gusta.
poison
Nuevo
and
meta.
werebear, which has typically been
Pero tienes esto hacen escopeta.
Werewolf, but
Hacen overlap.
we're seeing it here too.
Druids are the master of kind of this hybridization and mixing and matching these things. So we always love encouraging, you know, finding ways to mix these up.
Que le peguen varios proyectiles.
All right, enough on Druid. Let's talk about the
Y pilla cargas de veneno, muchas.
So, Necromancer has had some powerful ultimates as well. This is going to be a combination of ultimate skills that have been quite powerful recently. In particular, Soul Rift and Blood Wave. Now, Soul Rift is a skill which does everything. Right? It does damage. It gives you increased damage.
Es un contador, Jensen, de la vez que ha dicho sí la chica.
Gives you barrier.
Sí, voy a pulverizar.
Yes,
oh my
so
goodness.
many potions.
So we looked at all these things and said, well, we could like just chop down the numbers on some of these because like almost everyone is playing Soul Rift if you're not playing Blood Wave. It's like one of those two as a Necromancer.
Está diciendo que hace de todo, que es demasiado
bueno. The best
bueno.
course of action for Soul Rift is to just kind of reduce some of its functionality. So it will still do all of those things except generate a barrier. The barrier generation was giving a little
es una ulti que te hace como un círculo
en
el que roba vida, hace daño, te hace tanque, ralentiza.
As kind of a more survivability ultimate. Soul Rift will still give you lots of resource.
Pues han dicho que hace lo mismo, pero no genera barrera.
By just a little bit instead of a ton. But we think that'll bring
it a bit
more down to earth and give some other options like Army of the Dead and Bone Storm a bit of chances to compete.
So overall, you would say like it's kind of moving towards being, its theme is kind of like it's an engine for you, right? It sustains your potions, it gives you a sense, and that's its
la única ulti del Necro dice se te engañan. Pero si Ola de Sangre ha sido la ganadora del juego desde hace la hostia, Gañan.
Blood Wave as well has been kind of the other ultimate skill that most Necromancers have been building around. This one just does a ton of damage, and a lot of that has come from some of the unique items that interact with it. They give kind of a disproportionate amount of damage output and increase to your blood wave. Specifically Indira's Memory, which works on your pants, your leg armor. That's a slot which, for most characters that don't have a unique item, is not really an offensive slot. You can't really get a whole lot of bonus damage from that. And so we're looking to say, hey, any unique items that are on pants in particular, we're going to be looking to reduce the damage output of there.
Como es un pantalón, no es ofensivo. Esa es la lógica. Como es un pantalón, no es ofensivo, no puede tener poder ofensivo. Así que lo vamos a nerfear.
But of course, we've got new things to play with on the Necromancer. We've got Skeletal Archmages. And so this comes on the new unique, the Hand of Naz.
¿Cuántas veces van a nerfear el
new unique gloves which if you really want to be playing a minion build, but you're like, I just want mages, you know, maybe you're really vibing with the
gente, season de Necro.
Season. If you sacrifice both your warriors and your golem, and so you are all in on mages, you get to summon additional mages for every minion that you sacrificed. So if you used to have
esto está muy bien.
Bonus
esto está muy bien.
Warriors, se mejora you get that many more mages. Once mages attack 25 times, they get to level up. They can rank up to a skeletal archmage.
Y los mejorados se teletransportan cuando los ataca.
And the skeletal archmages will
y sus ataques
some bonus damage, and also whenever they are
attacked,
es
como lo que hace el hielo cuando se rompe.
They are, you know, they got a new skill. When you level up, you learn a new skill. Same thing with skeletal mages.
En AOE.
It's just the way it works.
Of course. So let's take a look at this in action. So you got just 4 mages here. Of course, you're going to be able to have more if you really spec into it. And as enemies come up and attack those mages, occasionally they will teleport away. Their attacks now can do some additional burst damage, and they've got little like lightning effect on their hands, and they're a little bit bigger to show that they are, you know, promoted to archmage status.
So with this unique, I can't actually have my warriors or my golem.
Right.
So now I'm the tank for my mages.
You do need to be tanking for your mages, right? It kind of turns the traditional minion playstyle of like, my minions go forward and protect me.
Bueno, este
and
minion,
it turns it on its
¿no?
head, right? You have this powerful backline.
Sí, pero igual estamos viendo un tormento 27 porque esto es un build de 0 damage.
In exchange, you know, you need to protect them. They can protect themselves a little bit.
Dice que el focus de esta build va a ser que tú tanques a los
bichos. It's going to kind of be on you, the necromancer, to be the front line in this kind of build.
Pretty awesome.
All right, next up, we've got the Rogue. So the Rogue, big talk has been their ultimate skills, Death Trap.
Se viene.
You know, ultimate skills are great. They have been
Me pregunto cuál van a tocar del
quite a while. Rogue's no exception. They've got Death Trap has been one of the most powerful builds for kind of 2 seasons in a row here. Similar to Soul Rift in a lot of ways, it kind of did a lot of everything. We also know that it did a ton of damage on its own right. And it also had a unique pants item, the Eyes in the Dark, that really talked to it and increased its damage output dramatically. So much in the line of our philosophy of, hey, pants armor shouldn't be so ridiculous amount of damage output, even if it is a unique. We've done some tuning on the Eyes in the Dark to make sure that Death Trap is not quite as explosively damaging as it has been in the past. We are looking to buff up the Infiltrators and Bursting Venoms. Legendary items that talk to Poison Trap and Poison builds, and saying, hey, you know, there's other traps out there. You can play Poison Trap. So giving a little bit more support here with those legendary reworks. And we also have some updates to Eagle Horn. This is the penetrating shot unique bow.
Lo que entendí que los únicos que mejoraban Poison Trap y otra, ahora mejoran todas las trampas.
Of a reason to use it. We know that kind of ranged rogues have fallen out of favor for a while. It's been a lot more about melee, and I mean, Death Trap is a melee kind of skill.
Yeah.
Supongo que una pasiva de rango.
Players love to play ranged rogue as well, so we want to make sure that we give a little bit more support to that to enable it. For those who do like melee playstyles, but maybe not trap, you might like Flurry. And if so, we have got a great unique coming next season, the Death Mask of Nirmatruk. I definitely pronounced that correct.
Puedes
so you can now overexert yourself while casting Flurry. Well, that's a weird thing to say.
Guardando un 10% de tu vida.
It does mean that you spend your life total if you don't have enough energy. So energy, that's not a problem anymore. You have your whole life total to work with.
Yeah.
So you can keep on casting Flurry, but when it does cost you your life total, when you're kind of overexerted in this state, it's going to stack up a buff. It's going to increase the attack speed of Flurry, and it's going to increase its damage output for 5 seconds. So you really want to be in this kind of overexerted state. It doesn't actually do anything if you're not overexerting.
Yeah.
So you really want to make sure that you're getting to this state. I love how this kind of changes up
some of
your
robo de vida o curarte
muchísimo. You don't necessarily want a lot of resource regeneration.
Right.
You want more health regen. Because if you have too much resource, then maybe you're not even getting into the state as often as you'd like.
O sea, lo que hace esto es que cuando gastas un 10% de vida,
the rogue is going super fast, right? So they sneak in, and as they're stacking up,
hace un Cristo de daño extra.
They go hyper fast. This is such
y ganas un Cristo de ataque speed.
But of course, the faster you attack, the faster your life total drains.
Yep.
And
más rápido atacas, más rápido te dreno la vida.
By doing this, you just won't be able to cast it there, but it does mean you're on very low life, and any stray attack might take you out if you're not super careful with it.
I will raise a flag for those of you
bueno,
trying this out.
A ver, mientras te puedas poner barrera a cambio.
Tiene buen regen y barrera, exacto, barrera y buena regen. Podrías estar bien.
But on the positive side, you do get a look like an anime character zooming around like crazy. Look at that.
Absolutely.
Definitely hardcore players.
Esto se traduciría como aluvión, ¿no? El flurry.
You know, might be a little risky for you.
Sí.
All right, we've got the Sorceress next. So the Sorceress has been definitely one of the top builds this season, I would say, in Lightning Spear, and I think one of the big talking points around Sorceress for a while has been Lightning Spear. A lot of players have felt like that is the only or best way to play Sorc for a number of seasons now, and it's not just been one season here.
Uy, bufa las
hidras. One of the
hidras.
reasons for that, I'd say the main reason, is that Lightning Spear baseline is pretty bad. Like, if you just get the skill on its own with nothing else, it doesn't really do a whole lot.
Es incompatible con Andariel, puede que no, puede que Flurry Andariel sea nuevo meta.
Legendary, and suddenly it goes from 1 to 100 real quick.
Oh yes.
That legendary aspect
diciendo
is
que el Lightning Spear es basura hasta que la pones en marcha y después,
how much percentage gain does it give the skill in question? Splintering energy is like way far above really where we want legendary aspects to be, and that kind of speaks to this outlier concept we've been talking about, where when you have one particular source of power that is disproportionately valuable, like a key passive that scales crazy, or a splintering energy legendary, that's the only thing that matters, right? Is that maximizing the damage of this one thing is the only thing that matters. We find that leads to some of these outlier situations, and it's also just not as fun. Like, nothing else in your build mattered. It's just about that one effect, whether it be a legendary or key passive.
Pero eso hace que sea más fácil de equipar y la gente no tenga tanto problema.
Sí, pero el resultado está demasiado
buen diseño. Eso es buen diseño. Pues cápalo.
Right.
Lo han hecho, ¿no?
This is definitely one of the most
que han dicho que le bajan el escala del crítico.
Of concentrating the power in a single spot in that splintering energy.
Bueno, no, lo veremos en la nota.
So,
no han dicho que
with that in mind, we've taken the baseline Lightning Spear and buffed up its damage rather substantially. But of course, the splintering energy has dramatically been reduced in effectiveness. So overall, I still think the Lightning Spear builds
han subido la base de Lightning Spear y han bajado dramáticamente, ha dicho,
they also definitely relied on some of the overpower changes, or they relied on overpower to really get into the highest levels of pit pushing, and so that's overpower is obviously a little bit weaker in this season, so we think that'll bring it down a bit. In an exchange, we're looking at buffing up some of the other builds available to Sorc, specifically with burning. One of the burning key passive, the combustion key passive, was one of those that was kind of uncapped scaling. It wasn't necessarily problematic, but maybe that was really just because Lightning Spear crowded it all out. Same with like Enlightenment, kind of crowding out those options. We have put a cap on that, like we've said with the philosophy of making sure that no individual power source eclipses all others. But with that in mind, we did look at saying,
well, hey, this might be a little bit of a nerf
to some other burning builds like Firewall or Incinerate. And so we've just done like a 25-ish% baseline buff to those burning skills just to make sure they can kind of be compensated
un 25% Incinerate y a otra.
Similar with Enlightenment, that was another one of the key passives
para compensar por el gap de la key passive.
But also, we've got a new unique, one of my favorites, huge Hydras.
Yes.
So this is the
Enlightenment. ¿Qué ha dicho?
Que lo han nerfeado, pero no han especificado.
Yes. So we've got the Ophidian Iris. This is
Hidras
an
es una core skill.
Amulet. And here,
y la sumonea de tres cabezas cuyos ataques explotan en el impacto.
And it'll always summon a 3-headed Hydra on rather than even if you had more heads, if you had like
por
Hydra
cada
heads,
cabeza por encima de 3 que hubiera tenido, la hidra se hace más grande y hace un 100% más de daño.
¡Hostias! ¡Hostias, gente! ¡Se viene!
And so these big heads will also do splash damage rather than just a single target and hitting one enemy. They kind of explode on impact, just like they're shooting fireballs.
Yes.
And so this is going to turn, your
spoiler, en las armas puedes llegar a sacar más 6 cabezas en cada arma, con lo cual se convierte en 12 extras. Se puede llegar a las 30 cabezas o algo así.
big can I make my baby Hydra?
Le suma dos cabezas también.
So it'll scale up with its damage for every additional head that you got, and of course this has
te da dos aparte del amuleto.
Do have +2 heads, which
there you go.
So you already have a bit of built-in multiplier on the amulet itself. So we got a side by
por cada cabeza por encima de 3.
Sí. Es que se puede llegar a tener 2 hidras de 10 cabezas cada una, o sea, 20 cabezas. Ahora 24.
Ese es el mejor estado para escalar entonces.
El número de cabezas. Pero eso es solo un templado de arma. Solo con eso ya llega.
A lot more appealing. We've also taken a look at updating some other things on Hydra. We removed its baseline mana cost, increased its lucky hit chance, and also done some other modifications to legendaries, just to make sure that like kind of a Hydra build really makes a lot of sense and is able to be competitive. So really love to hear feedback in the PTR about how these kind of builds land. And last but not least, we've got the Spiritborn. So the Spiritborn has been probably one of the classes that's been furthest behind, I'd say, in terms of on the current live season. I think they're going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of the basic skill rebalancing work that we did, where we looked at every basic skill and double.
El más beneficiado del rework a las básicas.
But in exchange, some of the scalars on legendaries and uniques, we adjusted those downward a little bit. The net result is still that basic skill builds will be better than before, and I think Spiritborn is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of that. Additionally, we've also got an update to the deflection aspect with Razor Wings build. Previously, this was one of those legendaries that didn't really have a home. It dealt like a percentage of counter attacks damage, and counter attack does not do damage. So a percent of 0 is 0. Yeah. So now it's going to increase the Razor Wings itself damage when you reflect them with this deflection kind of gameplay. And so just a little bit more kind of multiplicative damage support for Razor Wings build. Following with the theme of ultimate skills on all classes, as well being kind of a little too strong. The Hunter ultimate, the Jaguar ultimate, has been the ultimate on Spiritborn since its launch that really every Spiritborn player has used. I think
todos los Spiritborn de usan siempre el Hunter.
Are using a Hunter. Currently.
Que es el Jaguar porque se reinicia continuamente y taguea sin parar. Y playa todo lo demás.
In the build variety. And so one of the reasons for that is that the Hunter resets itself. If you cast it and then kill an enemy, it's going to reset itself, and it can kind of chain reset. And the chance of chain resetting reduces every time it does, and so it just kind of like feels bad whenever you're like, oh, I guess I ran out of luck and now I have to wait.
Yeah.
We found that to be like kind of degenerately powerful for anything that triggers on when you cast an ultimate, but also it was just not fun when you kind of failed to get that reset.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at reworking the exact mechanics of the way the Hunter reset works. So it'll still have that like kind of cooldown reduction theme, but it won't be quite as feast or famine as it was in the past. We've also got a new unique item. This one is the Balaton's Maxiltol. I might have mispronounced that.
Esto me gusta.
I literally looked up how to pronounce this morning, and I tried.
¿Te gustan los thorns?
¿De veneno? Sí. ¿Me hago un mega tanque autoataques y todo lo que me golpee de forma pasiva se autopringa? Sí.
Si eso es rentas.
Me gusta la idea de pégame, que me gusta. Te haces, porque este personaje tiene la posibilidad de hacerse muy bestia con el gorila.
Bueno, esto pega bien con la Bane, no sé cómo decirlo en español, con la gema de Diablo 3, que cuanto más lucha, más...
But still, it like empowers you very intensely in terms of your offense by leaning into that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely solves that problem where previous Thorns builds were kind of... We were hesitant to make pure Thorns, of like just build Thorns and nothing else, to be too powerful, because then you just walk in and you AFK.
Es que de forma pasiva, cuanto más te peguen, más daño se van a hacer cada segundo. No solo porque le hagas daño veneno, sino por esta mierda.
Straddling the line of active and passive gameplay that Thorns players would really want.
Totally.
So that's a lot. There's a lot of class changes coming in the PTR, and so we'd love to hear all the feedback you have around, do these unique items and the legendary rewards and the other balance changes. Are these builds good, right? Can you play
50% de daño veneno o algo así?
Is it reasonable to play in Torment 4 at the highest levels when you have like the really maxed out stuff and every point along the progression, and not just that build. Every build that I talked about here. We're also really looking to make sure that we get feedback on the basic skill update. Like I said,
esto no va a llegar a buen término, ya os lo anticipo. No he probado el RPP. No va a ser posible un escalado infinito de las interacciones de veneno, ya os lo adelanto.
Other kind of categories of skills on the skill tree. We'd love any kind of feedback on kind of exactly where they land so that we can help and inform future
que la hagan mítica, ya está.
And finally, just wanted to make sure that
eso no existe en este
we
juego.
really are focusing
Todo podemos conseguir un mítico en 3 horas.
shifting up that very top of the meta. I talked a lot about some nerfs to the really overperforming builds, specifically overpower, because we do want to make sure that Season 9, you don't feel like, oh, it's all the same builds all again at the top of the meta. For the 3rd season in a row. We really don't want that to be the case. We want to make sure there's new options for players who really want to push the limit of their character, and it's not the same thing over and over again.
Están diciendo que quieren un poco de feedback del RPP y que quieren que les avisen un poco de las build OP y demás, y que no quieren que se sienta como que es la tercera season con el mismo meta. Que esta season se ha repetido el mismo meta, Cataclysm, Terremotos, Lightning Spear, Death Trap, son literalmente las mismas builds que la season anterior, y que no quieren que la siguiente sea igual. Que balanceemos, que probemos, que reportemos.
¿Y crees que la gente va a dejar de jugar Bloodwave?
¿Que se van a dejar de jugar qué?
But we do have some more changes still coming that are going to change the entire game. So Aislan, I know we've got some systems.
El nuevo Necro. Yo si jugara Necro ahora mismo jugaría los magos de. Si dan los números, los nuevos magos de calle. Si jugara Spiritboard, a generadoras o espinas de veneno, que es algo nuevo. Si jugara mago, hidras. O sea, a mí me han dado una alternativa viable en todas. Si el número tan, tengo una alternativa para todos los personajes.
En la anterior también lo hicieron y se jugó lo mismo. El anterior, por ejemplo, al mago le dieron las de estas de frío y al final todo el mundo jugaba al NSP.
Porque no dan los números.
Touches all parts of the game. Like you need to go to a bunch of different places to actually get layer keys. And so if layer bosses in the end game are a thing that provide access to seasonal progression, that kind of naturally disseminates out to the entire game experience, which we really, really liked. So we actually want to keep
el Necro, por ejemplo, esta season lo más tocho se está jugando lanza de hueso. Está rotando.
La forma que teníamos de farmear la anterior también en esta. Ya está.
Not just in Torment, but
across
the entire game through elites and bosses granting seasonal reputation. Whenever you kill any elites or any boss in the game in Season 9, you are going to earn seasonal reputation.
No, pero no acabas de entenderlo, no es verdad. No es verdad. No. Season Reputation al matar élites y bosses. Esta season es solo bosses. Ahora podemos poner infernatos. Podemos ganar el doble de reputación.
Pero igual a la puta hora de infernal.
This makes me so happy because I'm a very scatterbrained player. I'm always, I'm going to do this activity, then this one, but now I get to feel good all the time.
La misma risa de imbéciles.
That's the hope with this update. I just want to reiterate.
Ahora son dos mods y no uno.
There are going to be really powerful and good ways to earn seasonal reputation and currency, specifically through interacting with the season.Ese are on top of all
el Diablo, el mítico, en las hordas infernales, ¿no? Y la currencia en los bosses.
That's that. And let's talk more about the nightmare sigils and what's coming with that. So we talked a little bit about it when Dan was talking about this, and I actually want to preface this section with something that's not listed here, but I think you guys might want to know. You can now teleport to nightmare dungeons from inside a nightmare dungeon. We wanted to make that update just a quality of life change because this was season of the nightmare dungeon.
Ahora desde la nightmare dungeon te puedes teletransportar a la siguiente.
To go from nightmare dungeon to nightmare dungeon for season 9 and going forward in Diablo 4. Very happy about that because it was kind of annoying to have to leave the dungeon and then go to the next one. But that's no longer a thing.
Un fijo positivo de diferente rareza y un fijo negativo que intenta no penalizar específicamente a una vida.
Live right now, there were only 2 positive affixes in the game. There was like an experience affix and a gold affix. And that ended up getting pared down over time. And we kind of wanted to take a step back and be like, how can we inject a lot more depth and ways for you to like find what you're actually looking for in a nightmare dungeon? And so what we decided and landed on was we wanted to make a lot more positive affixes, and we wanted to assign a rarity system to them, so that sometimes when you craft sigil, you'd get really rare ones that were really powerful, and other times you'd get normal ones, but ones that might give you
La temporada nueva sale
specific
en
kind
44
of reward,
días.
which can be really useful. And so here, for example, we have the Herodic Materials Reserve.
Julio.
This one gives you a smattering of different resources that you might need. So if you find yourself
el 2 de julio hace
or other kinds of resources,
no sé si junio o julio, creo que julio, el aniversario.
No, el aniversario no es el 6 del 6.
Like that, for example, specifically
técnicamente empezó un 2.
Kinds of gems, which also helps you stock up on
Por
whichever
el
kinds of
día
gems you might be needing. And then there are of course still like the experience one and the gold one and a lot of
También digo que para el aniversario pensaban meter el cariño de la madre y lo acaban de meter gratis ahora mismo, o sea que tan aniversario no es.
And another thing I really wanted to call out is that we specifically wanted to avoid penalizing specific elements or builds in negative Nightmare Dungeon affixes. So something we saw earlier in Diablo's development, or excuse me, Diablo 4 being live, was there were negative affixes that would say, you deal less shadow damage or whatever. And if your build was a shadow build, that kind of didn't feel great. And so we wanted to make sure that all of these negative affixes were more agnostic of speaking directly to your build, but still provided a challenge. And so with these 2 changes together, we're really hoping that we're going to see a lot more variety and depth in actually engaging with Nightmare Dungeons, and that they're not going to feel too frictioned, or you're not going to find a Nightmare Dungeon that just that feels like it's telling you, no, you're not allowed to play me. Like, we don't want that happening. And again, this is a permanent.
A mí eso me parece bien, me parecería estupidísimo.
It is,
aunque Expedition lo hace.
Heavily focused on Nightmare Dungeons, which was like the perfect time to do this. And now we're super stoked that it's going to be going forward.
¿Cómo es eso de reflejo de daño elemental, reflejo de daño físico?
Let us know how they feel.
No hace falta que te vayas a Expedition. Hay mapas que directamente te dicen, tú aquí no entras.
Pero te puedes poner...
Cuéntame.
Puto anillo, ya está.
¿Puedes joder tu build? Sí, puedes renunciar a tus anillos.
In Twitch chat, which is, are these dungeon changes permanent? And so for this section,
all the changes that these
are permanent, and the same thing with escalating.
Era los Thunders y los anillos no funcionan.
Those are going to persist.
Era la mitad con un anillo. Solo tienes que ponerte un anillo.
Además,
era los
y un panteón.
Bueno,
no te quita el 100% de anillo.
Pero el Heraldo no refleja.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think we have an asset here kind of showing off what you might be able to find in a Nightmare Dungeon. So that nifty little purpley mirror thingy is a Herodic artifact, which is a part of one of the new affixes that you'll actually find venturing into Nightmare Dungeons.
Esto es uno de los afijos nuevos.
Getting rid of this pesky blood blister.
Un Herodic
So yeah, can't wait for you to try it all out. It's going to be fun.
No ha dicho.
Next up, we have drum roll, please.
I'm so excited.
I'm very, very happy and excited and proud to be able to say we are increasing the quality of items per Torment tier. And what this means is when you go into Torment 2 or then further into 3 or 4, you are going to find more ancestral items. You are going to find more ancestral items from all sources. This includes lair boss drops. When you go and fight a lair boss in a higher Torment tier, you are going to have a better chance at finding ancestrals when you climb those torments. This is true throughout the world when things are just dropping randomly. This is true in the pit. This is true everywhere. We really like this change. We think that it rewards you
Eso en el pit también, el pit
escala
mayor tormentos.
Se
ha dicho que la calidad de esto de escalar por la dificultad, entonces hipotéticamente la mejor forma es pit 150 o pit 120 si lo puedes cerrar muy rápido. Molaría que entraran a específicos de cuánto han subido. Pero no lo van a hacer.
And can you feel the difference? Can you not feel the difference? Do you like the difference between these different torment tiers and the loot quality changes that are occurring between them? And that's just another topic that we'd love to hear.
¿Cómo se llama en castellano? ¿Poderes ascendidos cuando es un...?
All right.
¿O rasgos ascendidos?
Said, let's just talk about a bit of more miscellaneous reward economies.
Sí, eso es en inglés. ¿Y en castellano?
Here, there's some
rasgos ascendidos, ¿no? Rasgos ascendidos, creo.
Feedback that we got from season 8 that we want to just improve on for the game.
Gracias.
¡Ojo!
That's more fun.
Gracias.
We hear you guys about legendary rune drop rates. We know that those were too low.
Lo que significa barra libre de míticos.
Chance across the whole game to get that back to a point where it feels like if you are playing a lot.
Ahí te la fixe de puta mierda. Yo pregunté en castellano. A mí háblame en español.
Another thing where, again,
amigos superiores.
Rasgos
we
ascendidos.
want to make sure that when you actually run a tribute of harmony,
y crear más gemas de las hordas.
Oh, yes, okay, cool. This is a lot of runes.
Bajar el coste del caché de joyería.
And so now, if you really do want to find a lot of those runes,
eso era muy
tributes of
importante.
harmony are going to be a really good bet. We also kind of just want to inject identity into
más recursos de los cachés de los whispers, de los contratos.
So now just in general, going to the Undercity, you're going to find more runes
y bufo
than you certainly would have before, and that just applies to all different kinds of tributes. The Whisper Cache resource increase one is actually split among 3 different Whisper Caches. So we were finding that the Gold Whisper Cache, the Materials Whisper Cache, and the gem fragment whisper cache just weren't really giving you enough for the opportunity cost against the other kinds. So we just bumped up how much those are giving you of their respective thing pretty substantially. You can also now actually find whole gems inside gem fragment whisper caches. And it's only a chance for some of the good ones. Like, for example,
¿Ha hecho gemas enteras o fragmentos enteros?
Ha hecho que tienes una probabilidad en las caches de gemas de que te dé una gema entera. No, de que te dan siempre una gema entera y tienes una probabilidad de las buenas. De las altas.
Eso mola.
O
sea, más gemas, más runas y menos coste de todo lo que te pida gemas. Bien. Bien. Esto es que este balance tan básico lo tenía que haber visto un alpha tester, no me jodas. ¿Coste? ¿3 millones? 30.000. Valía 150.000, lo han bajado a 30.000. Está bien.
Este lo de que me
y te da un montón de un montón de anillos. Es una forma de sacar ancestrales. Pero es que este balance tenía que estar en puto alpha test. Este balance no tiene sentido, lo hayan dejado varios meses.
Es que esto tenía que haber venido ya. De hecho, esto tenía que haber entrado un parche a la semana siguiente. Pero bueno. Venga, va. Mejor tarde que nunca.
Sí, ahora cambia la Ducita. Quiero más Ducita. Oh, Ducita. También te digo, Ducita, vamos a vomitar esta season. Si vamos a estar todo el rato metidos en fallas superiores. Nos van a, lo que queremos saber es oro. 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 ¿Oro? ¿Qué tal oro? ¿Molaría en oro? Un poco de oro.
But if this kind of stuff interests you, please, by all means, test it out. Let us know what you think. Give us all the feedback on it you want.
Que la mascota no tenga síndrome de Down.
Super valuable for us.
¿Verdad? No hay que perder el tiempo en el RPP, ¿verdad?
Yeah, like as Dan said,
materiales.
as I'm citing Dan, one of the things he said is like,
echarle 20.000 horas para bufar un personaje.
Eso depende, ¿qué quieres hacer?
Definitely go in and like take your time with a lot of these changes. Some of them might not feel.
Si quieres probar la cosa tienes que jugar.
Really get a feel for how things have shifted because there are so many different components.
Por ejemplo, para llegar a Tormento 4 en el del 0 son varios días.
¿Por qué?
check those things out, get some more jeweler caches.
Yes.
Porque no llueven los recursos del cielo.
Entonces no quieres probarlo.
It's going to be exclusively on PC.
La respuesta a tu pregunta es sí, hay un minion que te puede dar todos los recursos que tú quieras. Pero en tanto cuanto lo uses, no vas a estar probando lo que han metido en todas las fases que te vas a saltar.
No han metido nada de LB.
Por ejemplo, todo lo que probamos en este RPP pasado fue todo el mundo a nivel 300 de Paragon. ¿Cuántas veces has jugado tú en 300 de Paragon?
Ninguna.
Pues eso.
Yo solo he jugado una, pero bueno, que
no. You can really segment out between seasonal currency into the different like
Yo esperaba una cámara de Goblin, habría sido la hostia.
Custom boost that you can get from Rack. So he is there, he's in Krovashad, he's happy to see you as always. And yeah, give us your feedback on the PTR forums. We're really looking forward to it. But definitely get in there and test and give us all your feedback. And with that brings us to our Q&A portion of the stream. So hopefully you've been dropping your questions in Twitch chat. We're really excited to get into it. But first off, we do want to take a moment to address our first question.
Yo no sé cómo que dicen que está levelados. Yo tengo como 100.000.
Doing about Reliquary. So this is our first stream since Season 8 launched with the Reliquary. It was our team's first big swing at changing the battle passes in a big way. You know, bringing in different rewards, more enhanced rewards, giving some more choice to the players. We have heard your overwhelming feedback. We know that this is a system with some mixed feelings, and so we are looking. The team is working very hard in the background. We are
Por favor, no es muy difícil que no se quede trabadísimo cuando vas a claimear algo.
Something we've been talking about a lot. Thank you all for the feedback on it.
Por favor.
We've been reading that, you know, across forums, the socials.
¿Alguna mejora reliquary?
And do note we do have an event that is coming up around the corner. So in a couple weeks.
Que cuando desbloquees algo no te lleve una pantalla adicional que te diga desbloqueado, puta madre, dale al siguiente. No pierdas todo el tiempo del universo.
No estamos gastando tiempo en ello, pero en un par de semanas nos actualizaremos de cosas que están por venir.
We also had the Berserk collaboration, which like Aislinn, I know you've got the Brand of Sacrifice on right now. Like you're a huge Berserk fan. I became a fan once we started the IP collab. It's been really fun seeing all the like Guts and Griffiths running around in game. But again, we have heard your feedback on that IP collaboration, and we've taken that into account. And for those of you that know the roadmap, we do have another IP collab coming down the pipe in the future. So we want to take that feedback from the Berserk collab and really integrate that into the future offerings so that we can, you know, better diversify and change up some of the ways that you access those
Hijo de su puta madre, todo esto cambio deberían estar ya.
Again, thank you very much for your feedback. We do really appreciate it.
El pavo en español.
Game dev is an iterative process, and the community is a very big part of that.
Hijo de la remil.
Literalmente.
And yeah, with that, let's get into Q&A. Okay. So thank you. Shout out to the community team for grabbing all these questions. What are we going to start off with? All right. Renata Kane. This one maybe, I might send this one to Dan first. Will you be able to find heraldic strongholds inside escalating nightmares?
Yeah, you absolutely will.
Recordad que había mazmorras normales y las mazmorras escalating, que era la que iban evolucionando.
Any feature that you could find in a nightmare
que era la que te abría otra y te añadía una fijo y te abría otra y una fijo hasta acabar. Y eso solo caían de las mazmorras secretas.
Y la pregunta es, ¿y dentro de esto puede salir el evento?
¿Otra mazmorra secreta?
Sí. Y ha dicho que sí. El evento de Strongbox este...
Yes, the Nightmare Dungeon affix changes. I think I might need to throw it to Dan. No, they're permanent additions to the game, so yeah, they should be available in internal.
Los cambios a la Nightmare Dungeon.
Los cambios a las Dungeon van a ser solo para temporada o también para Mundo Eterno. Para Mundo Eterno también.
As it was flying past, but people were asking, where is mouse and keyboard on console? That is still coming with Season 9. However, because the 2.3.0 PTR is exclusive to PC, we're not going to test console changes.
¿Va a haber RPP en consolas? No.
Fear not.
No, los cambios que iban a hacer para la Season 9, parte de los controles y todo eso. Y para sincronizar un teclado, todo eso que iba a venir a la Season 9, le han preguntado si sigue viniendo.
De hecho que sí, ¿no?
Sí, pero como el PTR es de PC, no puedes testear eso.
You've got some new options in the seasonal spellcraft. You've got Fortify through some of the blood magic. You've got other ways of generating barrier, but not just on Soul Rift. They've got some passive and some other ways of generating barrier from legendaries. And you may just need to, access some of the defensive legendary options that are out there, which have typically been very underutilized just because you had other ways of solving that defense. We still think Soul Rift will be pretty appealing because it has...
Están hablando de la ulti del Necro, de Soul Rift, de que le han quitado la generación de barrera. Y si hay otras fuentes, como los nuevos poderes, las nuevas gemas y otras herramientas para generar barrera.
Fantastic. Mippy, are there any updates on tempering and masterworking?
Yeah, so tempering and masterworking is something that we have been talking about internally. We don't have anything to share
Cambios al templado y al
exactly how we
masterwork.
want to tweak the system. So hang tight. But I can say, in terms of a quality of life update, in 2.2.2, so the patch coming out in Season 8, we are actually going to be updating the amount of non-gold, non-obdicite resource and materials that it costs to masterwork.
En el parche actual han reworkado la cantidad de materiales que te piden.
And on the reset.
No, en el parche actual, en el 2.2.2, en el que viene en algún momento, supongo que para la verdad, han bajado la cantidad de recursos que cuesta sin contar la obducita ni el oro. O sea, cuesta la misma obducita, el mismo oro, pero los otros
menos. Que si algo te tiene que bloquear el hacer rework, que sea el oro o la obducita, no lo otro.
And tax those resources, never to be like the primary thing that blocks you. And so
y en cuanto a la pregunta de ¿va a cambiar algo del tempering y el masterwork? La respuesta es lo tenemos en cuenta, pero de momento no.
That's really great, Ethan. Like, I know we've all been masterwork blocked at a specific point, so anything to reduce friction in that system is pretty great. Liam, this one's for you. Scroll of Wisdom. With a system like Herodric spells being this awesome, are you looking to maybe make it a permanent part of the game? I already feel sad knowing it's going to leave the game for the next season's power.
So I can't specifically speak on that, but what I will say is nothing is ever truly gone because we are developers. We have access to everything, right? So and this is a game that will continue to evolve, so the team hasn't talked about it.
¿Se va a quedar la season como algo permanente? Respuesta no, pero a lo mejor lo traemos en el futuro de otra manera.
Who knows for the future?
Yeah, it's something we've seen in previous seasons where, like, way back in Season 2 when we first did the vampiric powers, we brought some of them back as, some of the more popular ones back as unique items. Once again, we're not committing to any particular bringing back, but it's always on our radar, and that's why we love hearing feedback about the things that really resonate with players, and then that can help us to design future systems, whether it be future seasonal or future kind of those permanent systems as well. We're always listening to that, and it's always on the table to bring them back, the ones that really resonate with players.
Pues esta season está claro. La pasiva de Lilith,
very fun name.
La activa de Uribar.
Will there in the future be a possibility that the Nightmare Sigils can have active whispers shown on them?
Yeah, that's another thing that we've seen a lot of folks talk about. It's something we would
la posibilidad de que los
de que las mazmorras de pesadilla nuevas tengan contratos dentro.
Right now for Season 9, that's not something that's
aunque te avise, porque ya los tienen, de vez en cuando les caen.
But we do look to, make these kinds of changes going forward pretty consistently.
En plan que al hacerte un sigilo, en la propia skin del sigilo te diga, este tiene un contrato.
Esta tiene un contrato, para que vayas a por ellos.
Y han dicho que no.
Copmando, will there be any more balance changes for the current season?
For Season 8, the current season that is live?
Oh, actually, yeah. For the current season,
currently, no. There's no plans for any more balance changes on Season 8.
Ya no va a haber más balance para esta season. Esta season se queda como está.
Live on the game.
Disfruta del pícaro.
We've updated our seasonal balance cadence a little bit. So now, starting in Season 8 and going forward even into Season 9, we're going to have, the PTR before the season. That's when we do kind of our initial batch, like, hey, these are the balance changes we're looking at. We take in a lot of the feedback from the PTR, and then we iterate on it, and we when it goes live, the season goes live, we say, hey, here's the live season. We'll take the immediate feedback from that if there's any kind of progression breakers, things that are really outlier, things that we kind of missed, or an interaction that, oops, that wasn't intended, and we'll try to make a rapid reaction within the first week or two of a season to bring it, bring it down to earth, or to bring some of those builds that were really underperforming our mark and bring those up a little bit. But after that point, our intention is to really let the season ride, right? Once you're about 2 weeks into the season, you've already committed some time into your build, you've invested in your character, and we really want to respect that time investment. And we don't want to come in and say, oh, just kidding, we're going to...
Que si hacen cambios lo van a hacer en Insta y que a partir de 2 semanas no creen que sea el momento para cambiar nada porque ya es tarde, porque ya la gente
ha invertido tiempo y esfuerzo. O sea, si tiene que nerfearte algo, balancearte algo, va a ser la primera semana o 2 semanas. Después ya no. Porque si han metido 2 semanas en preparatura build, no quieren echar por tierra tu esfuerzo. Que es bastante,
It would be so rough to, you're like, okay, I've got these 2 months with my build and with these boss powers, so then to have, almost like the rug pulled halfway through and being unable to, really get into the nitty-gritties of it and stick with that build. So
yeah, and that gives us as developers and like designers looking at this data and thinking about these balance changes, it allows us to kind of take our focus off Season 8 and focus more on Season 9. And so, we're going to be putting out higher quality balance changes and higher quality releases by kind of moving on from a season to focus on the next one earlier. That just gives us more time to look at that data and really deliver high quality releases season over season.
So the little plug I'm going to put, please play the PTR because we're all a bunch of nerds. And I promise you, when you're playing the PTR, we are watching and we are just reading all the things being said, and it is so fun and meaningful to us to see people reacting and giving us new ways to improve the things we've made.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. 110%.
150.
Yeah. We will be reading your feedback. Do not worry about that. Karoi Nekamata. I think, Liam, this will be, it could be one for you, but maybe for the whole team. Would you consider the possibility that one can disable the effects of other players or at least dim them down so that one is not always flashed when, i.e., Sorks, like 4 Sorks are running around? And I could see that with the powers coming in this season. They are so bright and visual that...
¿Alguna posibilidad de que anule los efectos visuales del resto de jugadores? Porque es molesto. Cuando los bárbaros tiran muchos terremotos, los pícaros tiran las trampas.
Los poderes, si todos tiramos lo mismo y el poder es muy luminoso, todos tiramos una fucking rayo láser los 4.
En Diablo 3 hay una opción para bajar un 80% el efecto de los aliados.
But I know with the heraldic spells, we are making use of some tech to do that on some of the powers, such as with the pets, the cosmic anomalies. You're not going to see 100 cosmic anomalies floating and going everywhere. They're going to be
con los poderes de la Season 6 lo vamos a hacer. Con la anomalía, por ejemplo, si vas en party, no vas a ver los 5 bichos de cada persona.
Yeah, this is a kind of overarching pain point that I think surfaces from time to time, which is very reasonable and fair. And it's something that the team considers, especially with every new release, the heraldic spellcraft. I'm glad we're doing
that. No, mamona. Literal, es 2025, un porrón de juegos funcionan así. Que puedes ocultar los efectos de los demás. Que además es mejor para la gente que tiene peores PC. Porque a ti no te importa.
So if there are certain things that crop up that you find particularly egregious in that way, especially during the PTR, please play the PTR. Let us know and we
¿No serás un racista de otros jugadores, Taco?
Oh, yeah. I got a question here
me parece buen diseño que te dejen ocultar los efectos
what changes will be made to reliquaries in Season 9 to provide more value to paying players? So kind of similar to what I addressed at the start of the stream, we do have some changes coming in to get some more content into reliquaries. It's unclear as to whether or not that's going to be hitting in Season 9. It will be in the future, so Season 9 is probably
más contenido para la gente que paga.
Ojo, pregunta que es inteligente y está bien, y es para aquellos que pagamos el reliquary, algún tipo de recompensa, incremento, y está dicho, sí, estamos valorando potenciar el reliquary, las recompensas cosméticas y demás, pero la Season 9 es muy pronto, así que ahora no va a ser, quizá pronto. Pero vamos a improvement, vamos a mejorar el reliquary y las recompensas.
Ancestral or mythics into the new season.
Más ancestrales son míticos aparte de los que habéis comentado. Un único por clase.
No more, there's no additional items, unique or legendaries that we didn't talk about.
Pues poquito,
There will be some new, relatively new legendary effects because we did some substantial reworks.
Han reworkeado algunos, pero no han metido nuevos como tal. Pero los reworkeados son nuevos en nombres viejos.
Han reworkeado poderes legendarios,
pero no únicos. Pero algunos únicos sí los han reworkeado para
los únicos son los que han metido.
We didn't go over those reworked legendaries explicitly on the stream, but they are going to be testable in the PTR.
They'll be testable in PTR. They'll be in the patch notes blog once this is done. There just was like
Por
a handful,
favor,
and because they were
han nerfeado un puñado de únicos para compensar los básicos, el buffo a los básicos. Por favor, si vas a leer las notas, métele un skip porque lo único que han hecho es bajarlo.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end of the Q&A portion of the stream.
Vamos a hacer un stream de 8 horas.
So yeah, if you're still watching, thank you for sticking with us. This one has been a beefy stream for sure. Patch notes and the PTR blog are going to be hitting following this stream. It is a very, very substantial blog, so we will have all localized.
Va a haber dos cosas ahora subidas, Taco. ¿No quieres estar 8 horas viéndolas?
Check those out when those do go live. No, the PTR is going to be available.
¿Es eso o hacer un planeta nuevo?
June 3rd on PC BattleNet. I want to give a huge thank you to all the developers that have been here today. Dan coming in all the way from Albany, thank you for hanging with us this whole time. It's been really great hanging out with you and getting to chat.
Pero no, ahora acaban de decir que el blog es la semana que viene. Pero no acaban de decir que era al final del stream.
Aclárate, ¿qué acaban de decir, Taco?
Acaban de decir ahora que el blog es la semana que viene. Pero antes han dicho que el blog de la nota de parche era al acabar el stream.
¿No te aclaras, Taco?
And yeah, we will see you all for the 230 PTR. We'll see you in Sanctuary.
Hell yes.
Oh, and stick around. Yes. Stick around following the stream because we will have the Diablo creator. We're going to be rating RizarJ on both, RizarJ on both YouTube and Twitch. So stick around for more great Diablo 4 content. But yeah, we'll see you in the 230 PTR. See you in Sanctuary.
Yeah. Bye.
Hasta luego.